Some footballers have it easy. Their parents provide all of the time and facilities they need to make it in the world of professional football. For most, however, they have had to break free from hardship and have worked ridiculously hard to get where they are today. Today, we bring you the stories of 9 world-class players and how they escaped poverty and crime to live out their dreams. Stick around until the end to see how one of the greatest players of all time managed to go from rags to riches. Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo has won and done it all in the world of football, and he's still not finished. But before becoming one of history's greatest, he had humble beginnings in Madeira. His life almost ended before it began, as his mother wanted to abort him due to their poverty, but her doctor refused. Ronaldo was then born into a life of hardship in a Catholic home. His mother was a cook, and his father was an alcoholic. Ronaldo was popular at school, but his behaviour was troubling. At 14, he was expelled for throwing a chair at a teacher who allegedly disrespected him. He eventually became good enough to ditch his education and go full-time with football, a wish that his mother granted in hopes of an improvement in their quality of life. Ronaldo joined Sporting CP's academy, but he was quickly diagnosed with tachycardia, a heart condition that almost forced him to give up football. He underwent heart surgery, was discharged hours later, and then resumed training with Sporting in just a matter of days. It is a testament to Ronaldo's work ethic and raw ability, and proves exactly why he went on to become the greatest football player of all time. Marcus Rashford. A player known for both his footballing ability and his social work, Marcus Rashford too had a troubled upbringing. He was born into a working-class family in Manchester, where his single mother had to work several jobs to feed her 5 children. She often skipped meals to ensure Rashford and his siblings were able to eat. It was this selflessness that allowed Rashford to make it as a professional, and he has embodied this spirit both on and off the pitch. After establishing his position as a Manchester United stalwart, he worked tirelessly to use his position for good. He has said many times that he realises how lucky he was to escape deprivation. This has encouraged him to constantly challenge the government in their lack of effort when it comes to child poverty. Rashford famously caused the government to U-turn when it came to providing free school meals during the 2020 pandemic. He personally supported over 400,000 children in the Greater Manchester area. His funding also helped to raise over £20 million for children nationwide. Rashford also gave his 2 brothers a job as part of his management team, and has continued to strive forward for both his family and his country ever since. Sadio Mane. Sadio Mane wasn't always winning trophies and smashing records in the Premier League. He was born to a very poor family in Senegal and started with absolutely nothing. They could not afford to have him properly educated. Since there was no money to go to school, football became the next best alternative. But his father was ruthless, and his religion made him forbid Mane from playing the sport. Mane's father died when he was just 7 years old, and the future star immediately went back to playing the beautiful game. At the age of 15, he fled his home village and left for Dakar to live out his dreams as a professional footballer. His family fully supported his wishes, and a truly legendary career began as he signed for Metz in 2011. Due to his background, Mane is constantly providing support for people back home. He provides clothes, shoes and food for people in extreme poverty, and donates money every single month to Senegal's poorest region in order to boost their economy. Mane has also helped to fund schools and hospitals in his home village, as he hopes to help people chase their dreams in the same way he did. Luka Modric. The Real Madrid maestro was raised in the village of Modric in Croatia, but back then Croatia was just a republic within Yugoslavia. Modric's childhood coincided with the Croatian War of Independence. When the war began to escalate in 1991, his family had no choice but to flee the area. His grandfather was executed by Serbian rebels that year. They burned down his childhood home once he had become a refugee, and Modric lived in a hotel for 7 straight years. Bombs fell down on the city all around him, and football became the only way to mentally escape the realities of the war. Modric would play football in the hotel parking lot for hours on end. His family worked tirelessly to scrape up the money for Modric to enter a sporting academy, wearing wooden shin pads made by his father, as they could not afford real ones. Due to being too weak and frail, he was refused by several clubs until Dinamo Zagreb took a chance on the 16-year-old. He signed a 10-year contract and would go on to become a Ballon d'Or winner in the era of Ronaldo and Messi dominance. Raheem Sterling. The Chelsea bagsman started from nothing and still made it to the very top. Raheem Sterling was born in Jamaica, where he happily lived his first few years. However, his father was murdered just 2 years later. It spurred his mother to try to protect Sterling by emigrating their family to London. They bounced from house to house as they were kicked out for not being able to afford rent. Sterling sacrificed a large part of his childhood to help work with his mother, cleaning toilets in hotels in order to earn enough money just to live. It spurred Sterling, and from here he clawed and fought his way to every possible opportunity. He would take 3 buses just to get to training every day. His sister would accompany him every single day when she was aged 17, and Sterling has since said that she had sacrificed her life just to see him succeed. Sterling impressed scouts from several of London's biggest clubs, but his mother encouraged him to move to Liverpool in order to escape the capital's hostile gang culture. His career then exploded as he made his senior debut in 2012. Sterling has been ever present in the Premier League ever since. Luis Suarez. One of Uruguay's most legendary strikers had to start from the very bottom in order to reach the summits of world football. Luis Suarez spent the first few years of his life playing shoeless football in the streets, as his family were often unable to afford boots for him to play in. At the age of 7, he saw his father unemployed and was driven to provide for his family. He moved with his 6 siblings to Montevideo and joined Nacional. Even with a youth contract with one of Uruguay's biggest clubs, he could still not afford boots to play in. This gave him a bit of a reputation at the club, and he quickly fell in with a rough crowd. He neglected the academic side of his club training. His coaches then bombarded him with criticism, which forced Suarez to wake up and try harder. The elite striker credits his success towards the hardships which he faced as a youngster, and says that he couldn't have been inspired to try if he didn't have anything to play for. Suarez would become beloved in Montevideo and would return to Nacional in 2022 as a decorated veteran. Alexis Sanchez. The charismatic Chilean burst from the industrial center of Tocopilla. It was a district that rarely produced anything other than labor workers and coal miners. Sanchez looked destined for the same fate as he lived with his single mother. She worked a second job, a cleaning gig at his school, in order to afford food for them both. But this inspired something inside of Alexis Sanchez, and he was determined to break the cycle. He washed cars to bring in extra income for his mother while working his way towards professional status. Improving her quality of life was a genuine motivator for Sanchez, and it led him to a senior debut at the age of 16. When Udinese came knocking soon after, he left for Europe in order to financially support his mother back home in Chile. He would go on to play for Barcelona, Arsenal, Manchester United, also becoming a national hero after scoring the winning penalty in the 2015 Copa America final. The boy who was set to become a minor instead won Chile their first ever international tournament, and his mother's life for good. Mario Balotelli. It turns out it wasn't always him back in the early days of Balotelli's childhood. He had a rough upbringing, born in Palermo to Ghanaian immigrants. At the age of 3, he was placed into foster care with the Balotelli family, as his own family were unable to pay for his healthcare. To begin with, he would stay with the Balotellis during the week and go back to his biological parents on the weekends, but eventually, his relationship with his real parents soured, and he was fostered full-time. He adopted their surname and put his rocky past behind him in order to pursue a career in football. His new family supported him the entire way, and he eventually became the first black player to ever feature for the Italian national team. Balotelli dedicated his goals in the semi-final of the 2012 Euros to his foster mother Silvia. He would then become a proud Italian citizen at the age of 18. Without the support of his foster father, we would have never seen the meteoric rise of one of the most controversial strikers of all time. Zlatan Ibrahimovic. The self-proclaimed greatest of all time was born in Sweden to a couple of immigrants. He was raised in the Rosengård district of Malmö, which is notorious for its vicious cycle of crime and disorder. Zlatan's upbringing was horrific, mainly caused by the misjudgments of his parents. His father was an alcoholic. The drink led to his parents divorcing when Zlatan was just 2 years old. His mother would often hit him on the head with a wooden spoon until she was arrested for handling stolen goods. Zlatan was sent to live with his father, aged 9. Food was scarce at his father's home, with the alcoholic stocking the fridge full of beer, with little room for anything else. The Swedish striker would run to his mother's house for dinner. When she couldn't provide for him, he was left with no other choice but to shoplift. This led to him getting into constant trouble with the authorities, who would palm him off to social services. With little to no home life, Zlatan went out whenever he could. He played street football with his friends on a makeshift pitch, where he would develop his technical skills and play a level above all of the rest of his friends. One of his teachers saw him play and convinced him to sign up to a team. He joined his hometown club Malmö FF and became a regular. Aged 15, he was offered a job in the docks in Malmö and came very close to giving up on football. His manager intervened and refused to let him go, convincing Zlatan to continue playing. The rest is history, and we have his manager to thank for creating one of the most iconic football personalities of all time.